I feel the warp stone overtaking me, brother, like a pregnant black hole about to give birth to demons in this corrupted forest. Here come the dinosaurs, led by Falcon, a pure rush army of Kragskors and Stegodons, an army built on violence, speed, and momentum, but significantly less likely to cheat on their spouses. They'll be going up against their Game 2 rival here, Darth Malekith and the dreaded Dino killing gang, with Black Guard, tons of infantry, and Dark Shards, which are incredibly cost efficient for taking out big monsters quickly. So here, in the shadow of the warp, we'll see if prehistoric rage can overcome Dark Elf bloodlust. And for the children of the old ones, looking at a highly aggressive formation, an army built to close into melee quickly and smash through your front line. Lots of skinks, lots of red crests, 2 Kragskors for some punching power, and of course, the trundling Triceratops squad, effective for killing monsters and mortal men. They will run you over and quick. Both are equipped with engines of the gods, which means the old ones will be calling in Exterminatus momentarily, and Tehenoin will be dropping a few orbital bombardments of his own. Pan's Pelt and Transformation of Kadon, alongside the Plaque of Sotek and Portent of Warding, allows him to stack up some very impressive ward saves to help keep him survivable against all that armor-piercing damage. And he'll need it, because he's up against the Dark Elves, who specialize in killing dinosaurs in that manner. Now, this army comp was actually designed by Falcon, so going into this game, he knew roughly what to expect. The question is, can he actually beat it? Because it's designed to counter the Lizardmen. Very wide formation, all spears and halberds, layers of Dark Shards, and their AP volleys. Malekith and the Master are on foot, because it keeps them cheap, and really all they have to do is run interference and not die. They are reasonably consistently able to land attacks against high mass units now, because the changes to Foot Lords, they don't get knocked over all the time. And Malekith can spam Soul Stealers to get his HP back if the Guardian Aura isn't enough to keep him healthy. So, if they roll together alongside the Immune to Psych Black Guard, Stegodons should have a relatively difficult time doing what they want to do. And of course, Black Guard are incredible here because they'll beat pretty much any Lizardman infantry in the game except for Temple Guard with Barona's Time Warp, and they'll also murder expensive dinos. Round the build out with Cold Ones in the rear for some mass and as a backline defense, and you're pretty much good to go. So, Lizardmen are faster, they have the more aggressive army, they're going pretty much pure rush. It would be a mistake to try and challenge them for the hilltop. So, especially with 5 Dark Shards that need clean lines of sight, they're going to cede control of the strong point in the center of the map. Let the lizards bask in the warm glow from that malicious green orb of doom up top. Basically just wait for the inevitable assault, which will make impact now with the fury of 10,000 suns. Tehenoin coming in with the RKO, sending the Master flying immediately, busting through the Dread Spears into Malekith, into the Master, into the second ranks immediately, but he's going to have to be very careful. 5 Dark Shards means it only takes maybe 2 or 3 formations and a couple of volleys from each to take a dino down fast, and they don't have any healing either. Gotta be very cognizant of those volleys coming in. Big orbital bombardment dropping, but the Dark Shards should be able to move out of the way in time. Burning Alignment has never been exactly the fastest spell, and it's a little bit sad it doesn't come from orbit, that it just kind of appears out of nowhere, maybe a couple hundred feet up in the air. But the Kragskors are force pathing their way through the Dread Spears, and this is something a lot of really high-level players do consistently. When their monstrous infantry are used to bust into an enemy back line, they won't just sit there dealing with the fodder. He knows he has the mass to push through with the dinos, to push through with the Kragskors, so why sit still and let them kill chaff and fodder when they can push into the back, get aggressive, and make those Dark Shards start retreating, prevent them from firing in. So, Kragskors ran all the way through. You see the Black Guard are already committed to melee now, getting beat up by the Red Crescent Skinks, by the cohort of Sotek and the Kragskor combination. But the Kraxies are, well, they're taking a lot of damage already. A couple volleys from the Dark Shards taking them down to about half HP. Burning Alignment from the other Ancient Stegodon dropping on this side, and those death roll animations kicking in now. Kragskors taking them for a ride, and every time I see these things, I'm reminded of the Terror Crocs of yore. the things from prehistoric eras where you'd see crocodiles that are like 45 feet long, 8 tons. They're already the most terrifying animal in the animal kingdom. I'm more scared of them than I am of great white sharks, of giraffes, of full-grown African bull elephants. Crocodiles are terrifying, and they used to be even bigger. Give them a little bit of sentience and things get even worse. Dread Spears not having a good time here. Orbital Bombardment taking out some of them and jibbing a whole crap ton of skinks too. My god, Soul Stealer coming down from Malekith on the Dark Elves' right flank, and the Ancient Stego into the Dark Shards, which is exactly what the Lizardmen want at the moment. Sally is providing a little bit of support, but they don't really have any large targets to shoot at. There's only the one unit of Cold One Knights, and this is exactly why you bring them against the Dinosaurs, because as soon as they get aggressive and try to push into your back line, you have that sweeper unit ready. Bonus first large, armor piercing, certainly enough speed to close the gap and tie them down. Full surround off now, Malekith and the Master beating on them. Dart Shards can also fire in, and that is an isolated dinosaur that if it does not escape quickly, it just won't be around for very long under those withering salvos. So it's trying to escape, but at the moment Dart Shards are firing in. Falcon has overloaded the Dark Elves' left flank though, and the Dart Shards on that side are looking like they might get swarmed. This dinosaur not going to be able to escape, even if it was able to pull out of combat now. The Cold One Knights would be able to harry it. Sure, the Salamanders have been able to do great damage to them. It was a very nice response, but losing an Ancient Stegodon, Edge of the Gods, it's not worth that trade. You'll trade a Cold One Knight for a much more expensive dinosaur any day of the week. All about cost efficiency, all about those trades, and in this case, that is going to go the Dark Elves' way. So Salamanders managing to clean up the rest of the mobility for the Dark Elves. So without any cavalry at this point, they will be susceptible to moves like this one. Crocsgores up the center, and the death rolls shall continue. But honestly, I might have been a little bit premature in my description of the Cold One cavalry being dead. There are a few left that managed to get a rear charge into this Crocsgore unit, and Dark Shards are still firing in. But yeah, those poor Dread Spears, those poor Dark Shards, they have been fodder for the Crocsgores this game, who have feasted well. A lot of flesh, a lot of blood for them to consume in this one. Murderous Prowess has long since popped. Dark Elves have done well in the melee grind so far. That's why you bring this kind of infantry formation. With 3 Black Guard and a lot of Dread Spears, there isn't much that Lizardmen infantry can do other than support the dinos. And obviously Lizardmen rely on dinos anyway, but Black Guard can beat Temple Guard, they can beat Skinks, they can beat Saurus, and all the while deal great damage to the Crocsgores and the Stegodons that will be trying to overload the flanks as well. So they are an amazing pick here, plus they're immune to terror. There's no reason not to bring them unless you're expecting some kind of kite build or a lot of cavalry that you don't think you'll be able to get your Black Guard onto. So they managed to dodge that other orbital bombardment. Honestly, the Dark Elves done a good job of moving out of the way of those wind spells all game long. But Tehenoin is free, stacking up Pan's Impenetrable Pelt, stacking up the ward saves, and he is looking pretty healthy for this stage of the game. And he's got another Transformation of Kadon spell ready to go. So another Manticore summon could be a problem. Dark Elves have done a good job of forcing the Lizardmen onto the one flank. It's slowed their aggression down somewhat, but now that they've made it into the rear, now that the Dark Shards are beginning to terror out, Malekith and that Master might be feeling a little bit isolated. They want to be next to Black Guard for sure. Tehenoin is bonus versus infantry. He is AP. Nice little duel we got going between the Black Guard and the remnants of the cohort of Sotek over on that flank. Soul Stealer should be able to get Malekith back up to full HP. Tehenoin is dropping lower, but of course Footlords start with much less HP to begin with than something like an Ancient Stegodon. So Tehenoin, with the help from that Transformation of Kadon Manticore, they are a serious threat to Malekith and that Master. With the Black Guard coming in though, that's starting to look a little bit more iffy for the Prophet of Sotek. Salamander's getting some good volleys into the Black Guard back here, and they need this. They need to make sure those Black Guard, those elite armor-piercing halberds do not make their way over to Tehenoin, because if they do, that's exactly the kind of thing that could push their chances of winning out of reach. Nice rear charge coming in from the Dread Spears, managing to close the gap. Salamanders tied down and about to be sandwiched by 2 bonus first large units. Tehenoin fighting. Blackguard got the full surround off now. Transformation of Kadan Manticore, the only thing that's keeping him safe. And at this point, it's pretty much the perfect engagement if you're the Dark Elves. It's not that it's an incredibly impressive one, but it's one that they needed. Blackguard behind, Malekith and the Master in front. Tehenoin now getting pincushioned by full volleys of Dark Shard ammunition. At this point, with his HP bar plummeting, there's absolutely no way the Lizardmen are going to be able to take this game. They managed to generate a lot of pressure on the Dark Elf back line, particularly on the Dark Elves' left flank where they kind of overloaded. In fact, I think it might have been a better idea to have that second Ancient Stegodon stacked up alongside Tehenoin. I know you want to get a lot of line coverage across the way to make sure the Dark Shards can't all turn and focus fire on one side of the battlefield, but when you stretch your micro all the way across, well, it can lead to situations where your Ancient Stego gets isolated, and with the Cold One Knights coming in, full surround off on that, Malekith and the Footlords beating on him, Dark Shards firing in as well. It got brutal real quick for that Engine of the Gods, and once that first Dino was dead, it makes it a lot easier to isolate the other high-value targets. So, without any healing, once you lose the one Dino, there's a good chance things are going to go downhill from there. Now, this was, like I said, a build created by Falcon. It's designed to counter Lizardmen. It's not a perfect army comp. There's certainly ways for Lizardmen to deal with it. And in fact, Falcon's build is more than capable of doing so. I mean, Pterodons and Cavalry and lots of other options are good for harrying the back line, putting pressure on Dark Shards, but the other approach Lizardmen can take is not worry so much about speed and maneuverability, which they certainly didn't have a lot of here, but just worry about brute force, using the force pathing that we saw from the Crossgores pushing through the Dread Spears and then going directly after the Dark Shards in the rear. If you crump the front line fast enough and collapse in, well then, it doesn't matter how many Dark Shards a Dark Elf player may have, they're going to be in a situation where they can't run away. Croxies and Dinos are certainly faster than Dark Elf infantry, and from there, once you don't have the focus fire coming in, well, things can spiral out of control if you're the Druki. But losing that Ancient Stegodon early, that can put a crumpin on things, and if you don't dodge the orbital bombardments, the burning alignments from the Engine of the Gods, well, you can lose Blackguard, Dark Shards, and some really important troops for yourself. So, certainly, full infantry-focused builds for the Dark Elves have some weaknesses. They lack the maneuverability we typically associate with the Dark Elves, but when you've got Malekith on foot, a Master on foot, their bastions in defense, and then all that firepower, and those Blackguard in the center, things can work out pretty well if you're the Dark Elves.